I'm Tanya Fox, and you're listening to Fox Talks Business Podcast. I started my career in the corporate world, but always played to my own tune and loved to think outside of the box. This didn't always serve me well with the bosses, so I made the decision to become an entrepreneur. And that little seed of entrepreneurial curiosity continued to grow as I branched out into retail, service, and franchise businesses. Now, I have been fortunate to have amazing successes in the last 2 decades, but they did not come without some really big failures and even bigger lessons learned. And that's why I started this podcast, not just to share the failures, but to show you how you can turn every failure into a success. We're going to hear from some amazing humans from around the world that are going to share their stories of the good, the bad, and the motivational entrepreneurial life has to offer. After all, life is too short to make all of the mistakes yourself, so why not learn from each other? And of course, we're going to have some fun, because as I always say, well, you know what? I'll tell you that at the end of the episode. Hello, Foxy listeners. Welcome to the show today. Buckle up. This is going to be a good one. I'm going to do my best to try not to copy her accent because I just absolutely adore it. But I'm so excited for my guest today. Sonya, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to talk to you today. And I get that too. I love your accent and it makes me feel like I want to just drop into that Canadian zone. Absolutely.
That slur, yeah. So give us a little bit of history on you for those that haven't been deep diving you like I have. Tell us a little bit about your story and kind of why you decided to hit this path.
It goes back actually a really long way. When I was much younger, I grew up with entrepreneurial parents, specifically my mother. And I was kind of always that child that was in the back, of the business, doing filing or whatever the business might be, and always assisting. And to me, that was just the normal, right? And it didn't really hit me until one day we were at a business that we owned and things had gone bad. Now, as an 8-year-old child, you don't really have perception about what bad is, but what you know is the things that we didn't get before, we're no longer having those things. We don't have money to buy certain, items that are kind of mainstream, and your perception kind of changes a little bit, but you're a bit sheltered because you're a child. But I remember vividly one day when my mum said to me, look, we can no longer rent a home. We're now going to have to live in our business, which was like a mechanics type workshop. It had no walls. We lived in an area that was really cold and really wet. And the perception of having to wear, a garbage bag to school to protect myself from the rain because we couldn't afford raincoats. That perception really hit me at a young age of when things can go bad, they can go really bad. Mm-hmm. And being in business is very, very different to having a job because it's completely proportional to the decisions that you make. Now, fast forward that into my, adult life, I didn't want a business. I was worried. I was thinking, there's just too much that can go wrong. I don't really want that for my life. I want stability. I want to have a great life and I want to have money. And I actually fell into corporate banking. I became a financial planner. I was helping, people become successful in their investments and growing their wealth in that way. But I was always capped. I was working for this multi-million-dollar bank. I was doing 100 hours a week. My baby was the first in daycare and the last out. And I just thought, this is not living. Like, I am 100% living for the man. Mm-hmm. The man that I'd married was in the army at the time, and then he had progressed to do a trade. He was an electrician, and he came home when our baby was 2 weeks old, and he said, I quit my job today. I'm going to have my own business. And I kind of had all these things, flooding back to me, like, what if it goes bad? I've been there before.
I'll go buy the trash bags now.
Yeah, I don't want to be cutting the end off the toothpaste and trying to fish out the last piece. You know what I mean? So all these things kind of really came back and kind of was a bit almost like a PTSD. But my husband is just like a different animal. Like, if someone tells that man he can't do something, he makes a point of going to do it. So, fast forward, we're 16 years into this, and I've got all my financial skills. I've left my corporate job because he's asked me to. I've come into the business. We're running a multi-million-dollar business. We're multiple locations. And in the boom of COVID, everything's going great until it doesn't.
Right.
Next minute, I've got 5 days before I think I have to shut the doors because we've had multiple builders fold on us, owing us hundreds of thousands of dollars. We were 800,000 in the hole, and I thought, what are we going to do? My husband was like, we're done. We're done. And I was like, we are not done until I say we are done. This is my jam. This is what I do. And it took me 18 months, but we came out the other side of that, almost having to close, making more money than we've ever made, because I was like, this is not the end for us. I am doubling down on this and using all my skill sets as a consultant and all my financial strategy, all my ideas, all my information to basically bring that together. And that's where we are today. So I feel like we've been in the trenches. I've lived it. So when I help people, I've been there. I've been on that side where you think you can't afford to eat that day, or you're not going to be able to provide for your kids. And that's what drives me, and that's what drives this business. And the great thing about business is that income is untapped. That is completely proportional to what you're prepared to put in. It's great if you have an amazing team behind you that have the same vision and you've got other people helping you drive it. Amazing. But the amount of opportunity that it can give you is just immense. And that's what I want to do. And that's how I want to help people.
Well, and I think this is what a lot of people search for, and like just want somebody who understands, because there's so many people out there who, had a business, it worked, it was really successful, and they don't get it. They don't understand everything else that goes along with it. They don't understand those nights of, not even understanding how you're going to put food on the table, or like, I mean, I remember those days of like when my son was really young, of like just feeling like a horrible parent because like I was making like pancakes because it was like the cheapest thing of ingredients that I could like kind of put together, thinking this is what his memory is going to be. Now, luckily, he still loves pancakes because he thinks that was just like the most fantastic thing of life. Ruined my life, but it was like, kind of thing. But I think a lot of people like are searching for somebody who really understands, because when you're at that low, it is different. Like, I feel like there's so much more emotionally that goes along with that, of trying to pick yourself up again, knowing you don't want to give up. For you, was there a moment that you were just like, was there something that clicked in you that you just knew, like, I don't want to give this up? Like, did you just not want to go back to corporate, or was there something that you sort of judged to say, I don't want to give this up, or was it just gut?
I have 3 kids. I have 3 boys, and 2 of them, they're high functioning autistics, but there's always a little bit of extra help that's needed there. And I kind of feel like I always say to them, there's always 2 ways of doing everything. We always need to do our best. There's always other solutions. Like, don't ever think that there isn't another way to do things. And I kind of felt like I'm always preaching. I really need to live and be an example of this. And I remember sitting there with my husband and a friend of ours who'd come to help analyze things, because it's always great to get a different perception, and having my head in my hands and crying, and kind of just that moment of, you get one day to be sad, and then tomorrow you pick yourself up and you go again, because there is always a way. And if there's a way, I'm going to sit and I'm going to find it. My husband said, he's like, well, what are we going to do? And I'm like, I don't know yet, but I know that there's going to be a way out of this. There's always ways to make money. There's more money in the world than there ever has been. And I was like, I'm just going to make this happen. And I actually went out, and I had done a few things strategically to obviously give us cash flow. But I actually went out to the market and I actually bought investors into my business, and I basically turned things around in that period of time, because I had these connections and I had all these things that I'd built up over 16 years. Like, why wasn't I not using this repertoire? But it was that moment of, they talk about it in the movies, and, there's like the pivotal build up with all the music, but there was that click in my head that was like, this is what you choose. You either choose to roll over and die or you choose to go again. What do you choose? And I'm like, man, I don't want to do 100 hours a week for some massive company. That's not what I want. That's not me. I'm broken for working for someone else.
Yeah. And I think, I think this is important for entrepreneurs to hear, because I think so often, we hit those moments where we're like, I don't know if I can go on. And I love that, because I do that too. I give myself a day. Like, you've got 24 hours to have your little pity party, sit in the closet, eat ice
Yeah.
cream, talk about like how nobody understands me and nobody else in the world has ever gotten through it. And then, and then I kind of go, okay, well, like, do you want to go get a job? Like, do you want to work in retail? Do you want to, like, here's your options for right now. Usually the answer is like, nope. Okay, let's find a solution. Let's kind of figure it out. And I think that's, entrepreneurs, I feel like all of them have that seed. The ones that have stuck around for more than the 3 to 5 years kind of have that fire that you can ignite again. Sometimes just out of the sheer will of going, I'm not going back. You're never
Well,
take me alive.
that's like Alex Hormozy says, like, choose your hard, right?
Yeah.
Everything's hard. Everything's hard, but choose your hard. At the end of the day, there's always a choice that can be made. People are like, I don't have a choice. Yes, you do. If you don't like what the outcome is right now, you don't like the life you're living, you don't like what's happening, make a choice. Otherwise, you're just going to get more of the same. And I was like, I'm choosing different. I'm
Yeah.
choosing to do things differently. And I mean, like, could not be more grateful for that experience, as awful as it was at the time, and when you're in it, you can't really see the forest through the trees, as they say. But I am so immensely grateful that happened to me, and what experience now I can take from that to bring to other people.
For you, looking back, is there anything that you think, on your journey up till this point that you would have, if you could change, or at least maybe warn somebody else?
Yeah, it's really interesting too when you work with your significant other in business. Not many people are able to do that, so that in itself has challenges.
Yeah,
But
I'm with you
when
there. We have
I love
decided that
him.
we can own businesses. We don't work in them together. We
Yeah,
own them together, but we
exactly.
don't manage them together.
Exactly. And that's a whole different podcast, that
Yeah.
right there. That's a therapy session in itself, right? I think when your gut says to you something's off, act on it as early as possible. So I knew when the builders were coming back and they were saying, look, we're actually not going to pay this invoice in full. We're actually going to review this because we think that this isn't at this stage, or something's not right. And they cut a few $1,000s out, or tens of thousands of dollars out of $100,000 invoice. And they're like, next invoice, we'll get that to you. And it kind of starts things, little indicators that something's a bit off, and that feeling in your stomach that says to you something is not right here. Obviously, there's a lot of preliminary things that we do when we are, like putting things in place and making sure they have insurances and all of the other things that we're putting in place. And there's products that we have in place to give us more fallback time in regards to cash flow. But when that client or when that situation comes up and you're like, doesn't feel right. Now, every time I make a decision, I make it on two bases. One is gut and the other is data. I need to have both. If both of those things don't stack up, I don't do it. It is just a heck no from me in that front. Like, it could have all the most amazing data in the world and I can feel not right about it. I'm not going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
It can feel great, but the data doesn't stack up. I'm not going to do it. And I think being more aware of those spidey senses and listening to yourself and that intuition before you move forward. That opportunity may not be for you. The next one is coming, but don't make yourself or convince yourself to do something if it's not feeling right. And I think that intuition is just a massive thing in business. And I think people need to listen to themselves a bit more.
Well, and do you find often that people tend to do that at the beginning? Because that's the whole reason why you start, right? You just feel like, the world needs me or the world needs this or whatever it is. And that somewhere along the line, we kind of lose it or we discount it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because we start listening to outside sources. And what amazes me more than anything is the amount of business owners that will listen to people who don't have a business or never been in business, right? If even when I go, if I'm speaking to someone about finance, if I don't think that that person is wealthy, and I mean, the perception of wealth is completely different to everybody, but if I'm looking at somebody and they're trying to give me advice on how to grow wealth, and they aren't wealthy, I'm not listening. If they're not a doctor and they're giving me medical advice, I'm not listening. If they haven't proven that they are living and breathing what they're trying to embody and put out there, then I'm not listening. I can say thank you for the feedback or thank you for the information, but it doesn't mean that I need to take that on. And I think business owners are so largely affected by other people's opinions that they start to override and say, well, I mustn't know because this other person is telling me. And I think that's a lot of where the problems begin in after you said, after that initial, that's where that kind of interjects itself in your journey.
And I find that happens so much more these days, like, especially when you get into the realm of like coaches and consultants. And because I see it so often being in that industry, and I go, well, did they just do it for themselves or did they do it for others? I can do it for myself, but what I would do is not what I'm going to help you with because I'm
Yeah.
willing to take a lot more chances and do a lot more stupid stuff because I know how I can push myself, right? And I find that, there's so many people out there who are like, "Oh, well, I did it once, so now I'll teach."
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. Absolutely see that all the time. And I mean, having such a huge financial background myself and a big part of what I do is teaching business owners how to utilize their business to get them personally where they want to go. Because a lot of people largely just rely on the fact that one day I'm going to sell it and that's going to be my retirement. You know, we talk a lot about risk and how people feel differently about it. I too, I like to take risks, but all my risks are calculated. I might be working with someone who's way more conservative, and we need to work with that client at a pace that works for them. You know, if you're getting advice from someone and they are way more risk adverse than you, then you're going to feel so uncomfortable. And really, you're just going to get to a point where you're just going to shut the whole thing down and just not proceed because you just don't feel comfortable in that situation. I think it's really important to work with people who know and understand where you're at and will go along with you on that journey at a pace that works for you. And I think that is not only in the finance aspect, that's in your operations aspect as a business owner, compliance, everything needs to be at the pace of the owner and what they're willing to accept, I guess.
Yeah. I want to go back to one thing you said because I think this is something that I'd like to talk more about. You had just recently said about how, quite often business owners either rely or they're told like the whole idea of your business is supposed to be how much you can sell it and get at the end of the day. And I think people kind
Yeah.
of get stuck in that and then their whole concept of like success and everything gets skewed or I feel like it has a very corporate feel to it, right? Like I'll do everything when I retire and I'm like sometimes that doesn't work, right? Like health or whatever steps in the way. Can you talk to us a little bit about that, about how people can look at their businesses differently and not just only think about the end game, but how they want to, how they should look at their business to move them for what they want now?
Absolutely. I mean, I was having a conversation the other day on another podcast, and the gentleman said to me, he goes, what you're saying is like the opposite of what everything else people are saying here in America. And I was like, yeah, I know. Because if what had happened to us and we had lost everything in a blink of an eye, and I had nothing to sell to recoup, what would I have done? Now, obviously, that's not my situation. I've built over years a wealth portfolio, because that was my background. I have multiple fallbacks upon fallbacks if anything were to happen, where my personal assets are completely separate and protected from my business entity, right? But it has taken years to build our wealth portfolio. Now, for me, the business is giving me all these amazing tax advantages. It's giving me all these amazing opportunities to earn this income that's completely uncapped, unlike a job. But I am an active investor along the way, and it's small and regular and it's diversified. But to me, I understand that if I got sick tomorrow and I could not run this business, then I need something else. If COVID happened again and that largely affected the industry I was in, I need a fallback. I need something else. And there were so many people whose lives completely changed because they didn't have anything else other than their business. They were 100% reliant on building this amazing thing and selling it in 10 or 15 years time. And I'm going to sell it for $1 million. Well, one thing, it's only worth what someone's willing to pay for it. And two, what if that outcome doesn't happen? You've had 10 or 15 years where you could have been building something on the side for yourself personally, and you haven't done that. And now we know with the biggest thing with wealth creation is time. Time and understanding. And you need to, again, we talk about risk. If you're more conservative, it's going to take longer because you're going to need things that match your risk profile, right? If you're into the share market, great. If you're into commercial property, great. Residential property, bullion, crypto, whatever your animal is, great. But they all need time. So if you're doing that actively alongside building your business, or getting somebody to help you with that, then that just means that when you do sell your business, if that comes to that outcome, that's just a bonus. You know, wouldn't you want to have it as just the bonus, as the cherry on the cake of what you've worked towards for your whole entire business journey? But all this other stuff's actively working in the background to give you a passive income stream. Awesome.
Yeah.
You know, but what's the alternative? If you sell and you want $1 million and you get 500, that doesn't sustain you. In 10 years time, you're back working. Who wants that?
Yeah. Well, and I think too that sort of, I agree with what you're saying, because I think it's a backwards way of looking at it. And I think that way because I ended up having a retail business that I had that image, right? Like I knew it wasn't going to be something that I was going to keep for 30 or 40 years. I wanted to say that I did it. I wanted to try my hand in it. But I knew that my exit strategy was it was going to be something that I wanted to sell. But still at the end of the day, because I was in a smaller town where life ended up taking me when it happened, I decided I didn't want to tire kick this experience. And so I just closed. And I thought, thank God that wasn't like my plan, that I wasn't so reliant on it. But it also allowed me to have that freedom to go, you know what? I don't want to have a bunch of people in my little hometown, tire kicking my business. I'm just going to shut it down and take all of this product home because I would use it anyway. And I got to just have the freedom to be able to choose to walk away from that business in the mode that I wanted to. And to me, I feel like that's the most successful you can be in business, is if you can make a choice of go, sure, yeah, let's put it up for sale. Like, but that you're not like, oh my God, if we don't make this, like, I don't know what we're going to do. Right. Like we're back to craft dinner and both of us getting a job that we absolutely hate, which was the whole purpose of why we got out of that in the first place.
Exactly. And I mean, nearly every business owner that I talk to, and we always ask the question, tell me the reason why you got into business. Every single one says freedom. Great. When you're first in business, you're probably working 100 hours a week. That transitions over time as you build team and there's other people, right? But what we're really, really in it for is the freedom to choose. The freedom to choose when I work, how I work, if I close, if I sell. It's all about the freedom to make the choice. And when you're in a job with somebody else, you don't have those freedoms. And if people want to close because they don't see the benefit of selling for whatever reason, that's the thing. You've got that freedom to choose, right? You can turn around tomorrow and start a complete new business. And because you've done it before, basically instead of taking 3 years, it might take you 3 months because you already have that experience that you've been down this road before. You could basically almost insert yourself into any other business and any other industry and be successful because the fundamentals are the same. But everybody wants the outcome of the freedom to choose. And they say everyone's jealous of the outcomes, but nobody's jealous of the journey.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's the journey, right? It's the lessons. And those things and those lessons that we've learned can work anywhere else in our life if we apply them. And that's the most amazing experience that we get from business. But having the ability to really plan those outcomes, like if you came to me and you said, Sonya, I want to have passive income of $400,000 a year, and I want to have that in 15 years' time. Great. Let's go. We've got a benchmark. Let's make it happen. How can we make that happen utilizing your business and everything in between, right? So that's the thing. It's all of the choices, all of these opportunities that are out there that people don't even know about, not even aware of, to get that started.
Yeah. And I think it's being open to understanding that your point of view is going to change. Like when we're younger and we start businesses, it is like it's the different in freedom of choice is sometimes that money aspect. I find when we're younger, we have like the visions of millions, just give me millions, fame and fortune. That's what I want. And then as we get older, it shifts to that time and to, and to the freedom, to the passive income, to just being able to go, I'm going to work today. I'm not going to work today. Like that's something that drives me that I'm like, I never want to have to give that up.
Oh man, when I was 20, I thought that the world was massive and I couldn't wait to see it all. When I was 30, I was like, man, I'm so glad I'm not 20 anymore. When I turned 40, I was like, man, I am so glad I'm 40 because now I feel like I want to relax. I want to enjoy my kids. I want to go to the beach. I want to, enjoy my life. And I have this amazing vehicle that gives me the opportunity to do that. Like I do what I need to do when I need to do it. I'm with my kids the second I pick them up from school. We're actively involved in their sports and things that they do. And I'm grateful for those opportunities. And now I look back and as you say, it's perspective, right? I'm loving that so much more than going out night clubbing every weekend and having those, 20-year-old kind of issues that I had. But it is all perspective and things change. But as you said before, it's about being able to pivot and make different choices. If I no longer want that and it's not going to serve me, great. Move on to what will.
Yeah. And I think that was, like you said, that freedom to choose was such a monumental moment, I think, in my career and in any business that I had. More so, I would say in the service space was I felt like I had made it when I could feel like I could say no to anybody. Like if a
That's
client
it.
came in and, I was like, like again, following that gut feeling of it, like, I don't really feel like this is a mix. Like as soon as I was like, no, like we're good, thank you, but like I can refer you to somebody else. Like I was like, ooh, wait a minute. That's the
Yeah.
moment. That's the moment I want because like that was always the moment I realized I'm not stuck in my numbers, right? Like I'm not at that moment where you just like you're a funnel, right? Like you're just taking everybody. You're like, I'll weed them out later because I just need everybody and then I'll figure it out, right? That mad
But what is
dash.
self-confidence? Like what an immense change, like for your self-confidence to go, I know my value, I know my worth. And I just know that in this situation, I don't want to pursue this. And
Yeah.
I have the right not to. And that's cool. That's okay. Because I know that something else that is going to be right for me is coming. And they always say, like, don't fill up the space with things that don't serve you. Because when that thing that comes along that will, you're not going to have the time or space to do it. So
Yeah.
having that ability and that right to choose, like that's powerful. Honestly, that's massive.
So for you, like for anybody who's like out there listening, is there a moment that you can think of, or even like an example of a client that you had that you're like, this is when you need to reach out. This is when you kind of need to seek help when you're sort of at this moment. Cause I think so often we're trudging so hard through that we like,
Yeah.
we're like, wait, we're in a forest? I didn't know. I was just head down running, right?
You're trying to cut the trees down with a butter
Yeah.
knife and you're just like wondering
I'll
why.
get there.
Why
I'll
my
get
God
there.
is it taking? Look, it's it's so great. I've been able to experience so many different journeys and so many different stages with my clients. I have people that are startups. I love startups because they're so optimistic and so much is happening, right? But it's also great because with the expertise, we can get them to a stage where they're making less mistakes because we have the ability to guide them and get things done right the first time. We have people that are partway through that have been in business for 5 or 6 years. They haven't kind of hit that 7-year itch yet. And they're loving it and things are growing, they're getting into that scaling stage, but they haven't really looked at their own personal wealth journey and how they can kind of get that started. So we're kind of trying to combine the two and say, okay, well, you've got one world that you're looking at right now, but this world over here that you want an outcome for hasn't even started. So let's look at that. And then we've got people who are looking at coming on the tail end of their business, and they're not really sure what looks like next, what's the next stage for them, but they haven't really either invested or they have, and they're not sure if it's enough. And we kind of work with them on that journey. So everything is customized to every single business. And look, if we can help, we will. If we can't, we'll say we can't. But at the end of the day, it really just depends on what they need and when. And the great thing about working with us is you might need us for a time and then you might go away for 6 or 12 or 18 months and not need us and then come back. It's not like a lot of other consultancy firms where like, we must have a lock-in contract, we must have this, we must meet at this time every single month because that works for me. No, we don't work like that. We're completely customized to their level. And I think that's the difference is we're really not in it. Like money is the byproduct, right? We just love doing it because of the strategic aspect. Like I fill my cup because of other people's strategy and other people's outcomes. It's kind of selfish in that way because I love it so much, but it's great, right? Because they get the outcomes they need. And yeah, I make money along the way. Obviously I wouldn't be doing this if I wasn't being able to make an income. But at the end of the day, I just love seeing people be successful. And we can do that through all the different stages of their business journey.
And I think it's true. Like, I think that's I sort of feed off of that myself too. Like I go, my like ultimate goal in any of my businesses is to make my clients super successful. And then people, I remember when I started my first accounting firm and I used to say that to people, like, your success becomes my success because the more money I make you, the more money I take from you. And they were like, I can't believe you just said that to me. And I'm like, but it's true. But the truth is I've earned it. Like I'm proving myself along the way. But that, that kind of became our underhanded motto. I make you more money so I can take more money.
So, and that's the thing is like, as I said, there's more money in the world than there ever has been. There's more opportunity in the world than there ever has been. Like I look at even the difference between when we went to school and what our curriculum was like. And my kids, I look at them now and I'm like, I got one that's going to Japan next year, one that's going to America the year after. I'm like, dude, that was never an option for us.
We
Like
had field trips to the local museum.
Exactly right. And you thought that was a great day, by the way, when that was happening. I said to them, look, we're going to say yes to every great opportunity and we're going to just find a way to make it work because you will never get this time back. And I want you to have every experience that you possibly can so you can make the best choices moving forward. But I also want you to understand how hard Dad and I have had to work, right, to get you to a place where you have those opportunities. I need you to understand what goes in on the back end to give you the lifestyle that you've got right now because you guys don't know any different. I know trash bags in the rain walking to school. You guys, thankfully, hopefully will never be in that situation. But I need you to understand it and be grateful so that every time an opportunity presents itself, you say, thank you. Yes, I am grateful for this opportunity. I'm going to take it and see what comes of it. You know what I mean? So it's very different in the world right now to the generations past. And I think instead of saying, oh, we never got this and this is not fair and AI and all this stuff, cool, grateful, just grateful that there's more opportunity, more amazing things that they can do, more job roles, more industries, more of everything. So I think instead of the pessimistic side of what's happening in the world, because let's be real, there's a lot of stuff that's going on that we don't have control over, but there is so much that we can. And I think looking at those opportunities and being like, there's a business there. There's a business idea there. I mean, it's like a walking, talking Dragon's Den or Shark Tank, right? Every single day. You look at the world and you're like, man, there are so many business opportunities, but I can just do this one right now. But you might become a multiple business owner, right? Because you just love it so much and you're making money. Go for it, right?
Yeah. And that's what happened to me. I wanted one. That's all I was going to do. And then you just start stockpile. It's like when you collect anything, right? You're like like I always joke, I say like, hey, businesses are like tattoos. Like you get one and you're like, just one. I'm just going to do
Yeah.
one. And then all of a
Yeah.
sudden you're like, I am covered.
What
kind of happened?
You need to come to Australia. It's like it's a whole deal. You like go down the beach and just like eyebrows to toenails, like tattoos and stuff everywhere. People that 100% is the epitome of, what we're talking about. But I agree with you, right? I look at a world and I just think I could do so much more. But what I'm thinking is I just want to laser focus on this thing right now. And when I think that thing's good and it's running under management and on its own, then I feel comfortable to move to the next thing. Because I don't want to get that confused with like shiny ball syndrome where people get in love with the startup phase because they feel so amazing about it. And what they do is they become like a serial startup entrepreneur, right?
Yeah.
I don't want that for people because then they never get to reap the benefits of the long-term part of that journey. But there's nothing wrong with running multiple. If you have the capacity to do it and you're getting multiple levels of income stream. I have a friend of mine, he sold an electrical business, very, very successful, but he said, Sonya, it's like running an adult daycare center. I was like, dude, I know what you're talking about. Absolutely. And now what he does is he just invests in businesses. So he has like dozens of businesses that he runs on a very macro level because he has those capabilities now to transfer into any business. So he's gone in with 3 or 4 other close people. We call it red team when you have just like a circle of specialists that you basically take into every business opportunity. And he just does that on every level where he just keeps compiling these businesses. And because he knows the secret source of the success that it takes, he's just making bulk. He's just absolutely cashing in. And yeah, we pay these phenomenal taxes, but you know what? If you're paying these phenomenal taxes, you're making money. And he's loving his life. He's going to the gym. He's being with his kids. He's a busy guy, but he's loving it. And I love that for him because I think to myself, what else would you be doing? And he's like, there's nothing else I'd be doing.
Yeah. And I think, that I love that you said that because I think it's such a good reminder. And anytime, because I still have the first accounting firm that I ever opened, it's my little cash cow that sits there. But still to this day, as soon as somebody comes to us as a new business and as soon as they owe on their taxes, we send them a cake that says like, congratulations, you owe money. And like, it doesn't matter. It's 25 years and we still get phone calls. Why the hell did you send me a cake? And I'm like, cause this is it. You've hit that pinnacle. Like now you owe, you're not getting the refund. This is what you want to do. Like you want to get to that point where you do have a bill because that means you're making money, not losing money. Do you get this? Right. But it's a celebration, but we forget that, we're just like, right.
But isn't it interesting that people have been made to believe that that is bad? And we talk a lot about money stories and the psychology of money stories, right? And, I could have gone 2 ways. I could have been like, I was poor, that's my life, woe is me, I hate the world, whatever, right? And trying to scrounge every single cent. Don't get me wrong, I'm never going to pay more tax than I need to pay. I'm not volunteering it up. Absolutely not. However, like I feel like, yep, I got a bill, $100,000. Yep, that means I'm making good money. I've got to pay what I've got to pay because that what's make the world go round. Like Australia runs on the back of small to medium enterprise businesses. That's what's funding this country, right? So we need to pay taxes because that makes our world go round. And I understand, and I'm almost grateful when I get to that point because I know what it means. And like you said, people just aren't at that stage where they know what it means. But if you can change their perception with your accounting business and being like, when you make money, you have to pay X, but that means you've made so much that you've got to pay
Yeah.
something. If you are getting paid back, you are in the red. That is bad. Like,
Yeah.
change your
That's
perception.
when you should be upset.
Yes.
Not the other way
Yes. Like,
around.
dude, if you have a business and they owe you money, wow, something's, either you've done something that's not right as far as not above the line, which don't really condone either because don't love audits and all that other kind of fun stuff. But, you know, don't spend, we would say, don't spend 30 cents to, sorry, don't spend a dollar to save 30 cents, right? So
Yeah.
in this country, we always talk about the tax bracket. Well, they're like, oh, at tax time, I'm going to go and buy all these things so you can add tax write-up. One, did you need that thing? Two, did you just realize that you've spent 3 times more than you need to try to save that 30 cents? Like, why are you doing this? Oh, because people say I need to write things off on tax. Who are people? Who are you talking to that is giving you this information? Are they a tax expert? No. Well, probably don't listen. Like, this is comes back to what I was saying
Yeah.
before. Like, if they're not super wealthy or they're not like the best in their field, like, I'm not listening. I want someone who's been there, living it, doing it, breathing it, and has the outcomes to show.
Yeah. And I think it's so true. And having that, really concentrating on building that team and keeping that team with you, especially if what you want to do is grow and expand, is so crucial. Like now, like you said, it's easy for me because I have a team that I literally just like plunk in. I'm like, and it usually starts with me going, so I did a thing. And then they're like, damn it, what are we doing now? Right. But they all know their role. Right. And we work so well together that, bringing that team with you that you can just plunk in and they know what to do because they've done it. They've been with you along the line. Like that's an amazing feeling when you're like, okay, we got this, and I know now I no longer have to do it alone because I've collaborated enough and I've built my team that they know the unwritten model. I make more money, you make more money.
Exactly, exactly. Like, if you don't have your accountant, your solicitor, your banker, everyone on speed dial, and if they don't kind of do the shake their head but laugh when you say, I've done a thing, then they're not your people. Like,
Yeah.
if you don't have someone who believes in your vision as a human being, as a business owner, and what you're looking to achieve, they're not your people. But once you get that boardroom of people around you, um, that's just the most ultimate thing that you could have. Like, it's having this team of specialists who know and understand you and how you work and what you're trying to achieve, and they're going to get you there. They're going to do their part in that to get you there. And you need all of those people in your corner to be successful. And you know and it's so great to hear other people who've got that, like, I did a thing. Yes, that's me every other day. I'm like, I had an idea, and my accountant's like, yep, hit me with it, let's go. Like, he's not even trying to
Yeah, my team's
pass it
not
back
phased
because he
anymore. They're just
yeah,
like, okay,
yeah,
what?
yeah, because they
Um,
just know that it's just going to keep coming, right? And the
yeah.
great thing is that they're on board with you, and I think that that in itself is a huge success.
Well, and I think too, like learning, like you had said, to that there is a ton of money out there. And I think people get stuck. I remember when we had a franchise business and I wanted to grow and I went to the bank, like with my plan, I'm like, this is what we want to do. We have it all set up. We've talked with the business, we've got the franchisees all ready to go. Like, and they were like, I don't think we can do that. And I was like, what the hell are you talking about? And they're like, we just, we need some stability. And I go, the freaking country, like the company's 100 years old. Well, how much more
Yeah,
stability do you need, right? But a lot of people were like, "Oh, so it didn't work." And I'm like, "No, I pulled everything from the bank." And I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, if you don't believe in this, not a problem. I get it's not for you.
yeah,
100 years, I guess, isn't enough experience for you. Not a problem. Don't see the vision. It's fine." And then like we bank shopped and then we found one. It was like, "Oh, this is exciting. Yeah, I think we want to do this journey with you." And I like to me that was like so empowering to walk into the bank that day and go, I would like to close my accounts. And they're like, which account? I'm like, all of them.
exactly,
I felt super
exactly.
rich for that hour that it took for them to clear everything out and move it to the other bank. But it was, it was really having that realization. And for me, it was my coach going, just take it all. Take it all from them. You have no
Yep.
loyalty to anybody but yourself. So don't be shy or don't feel like, you can't just up and go, I don't want to do this anymore. And I took that even for businesses, when they were going really, really good, or when I got that gut feeling where I was like, I feel like, this isn't going to last. And I pulled out, like with the retail store, I pulled out 2018. And in
Wow.
hindsight, I was like, I don't know. There was just something in my gut that was like, I'm done with people. Just
Yep.
I need to be done, and I'm super grateful I followed that gut instinct because I didn't have to make it through COVID retail of dealing with,
Yeah.
with all
Wow.
of that. But had I not listened to that instinct, had I not taken that chance and just said, "Okay, like I'm young enough, other stuff is gonna come along. We'll get this figured out." And so, I hope that everybody who's listening takes that to heart and hears it from both of us
Oh,
that intuition
absolutely.
is like the strongest messenger. And you're usually right. Right? Like, I think more often than
Exactly.
not, we go, why didn't I listen to myself? Like,
That 100%. And you do it so many times, you're like, stop. My gut is saying this. And I always say, why didn't I listen? I have to listen this time. And then it usually pays off, and you're like, damn, I have to do this every time.
yeah,
But I just want to say on your point about the banks, I have this running joke: date multiple banks. They have multiple clients. They are not monogamous with you. Date
yeah,
multiple banks and use every product to your advantage. And if one says no, as you said, there's other banks out there. So I'll go to my banker and I'll be like, I'm going to buy this commercial property, no money down. You're going to fund the whole amount. And he's like, okay. I'm like, and I want it done within 3 weeks. If you can't do that, I'm going somewhere else. Now they like, not that they don't like me, but I think the frustrating part is I worked in corporate finance and I was in commercial lending for a long time. I've been the business owner and I've been on the other side. I understand how credit management works. I understand their process of how they assess deals. I understand how long it should take, what's required, all of that. And with that knowledge in the back end, I feel so confident when I go in and go, I know what you can do. I know your parameters and I want this done and I want it done in this time frame. If you can't, that's fine. I'm going to go somewhere else because I'm getting this deal irrespective. I've given myself multiple time and opportunity to source this money. I have money, but I'm not going to use my money. I'm going to use your money. But I'm telling you now what's going to happen, not the other way around.
yeah,
And I think that we get pushed into this trap like, oh, the bank says, you know what? That's a business. That business there is telling you that they can't service you, but there is another business out there that can service you. We get this, overarching, oh, it's a bank, it's, these
yeah.
financial people. It's a business just like
They
yours.
know. Well, and I always go, it's an employee. They don't understand. Like when they go, I don't
Agreed.
know if this is going to work. Oh, how many have you started?
Exactly. Tell me how long you've been in business.
Yeah,
Never. Excellent.
perfect.
Excellent. I
You're the
yeah.
best person to tell me that. And I'm like your
Exactly.
husband. I'm
Exactly.
like, all right, I'll see you soon.
Yeah. Oh, mate.
I have started a
He
business out of spite.
yeah. He loves that. It's like, what's the reason for trending this? For spite. He
Yeah.
just, yeah. And that's what one of the things I love most about my husband is his ability to drive himself purely on somebody told me I can't watch this space. This is
Yeah.
absolutely happening. And that level of determination, not everybody has that, but once you have it in fear and business for yourself, that's one of the strongest assets that you can have is being so determined. Like, obviously, always take into account calculated risk. You're not going to do anything that's going to put you into a precarious position by any means. But not caring about other people's opinions of you
Yeah.
and being able to keep moving forward. That's next level stuff. Because especially for you, having especially like in a retail business, right? You probably at that time or at for a period of time really cared about what people's perception was because you're dealing with the general public.
Yeah. 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 It was
Now,
it was a
when
lot of
you,
word of mouth and what they said, but that
yeah,
filter dropped real quick.
yeah, exactly right. So when you get to that level of I don't care about what other people's perceptions because I have a goal, I have a dream, I have a plan, and I'm going to execute this because I care about my outcomes for myself and my family, and that my kids have a good life, and I'm building multi-generational wealth platforms and outcomes, what does it matter that that person in that small town had an opinion about the way I did things? It matters
Yeah.
not. You
Yeah.
know, where are
And I
they going to
don't,
be in the same place in 20 years' time?
yeah.
I'm not going to be.
And I don't think you ever get it. Like I always tell people, you're never going to get away from it. Like I've been self-employed for 25 years and I still have family members every time we get together, and I will be seeing them in October. And so I'll let you guys know. But every year, every time they go, like, have you thought about like going and getting a job? And I'm like, I know, right? Like 25
No,
years.
actually, I never thought of that before. Wow, that's completely new information.
You're right. Like I have no, 25 years is not enough time to know whether or not like I can make a living at this. Like you're right.
Yeah,
Like, hey, tell
no,
me about
I
your
get it.
job. How are you liking it? Like you have like you had to take extra years for retirement. Oh, like
Yeah,
now it's funny, but I understand how so many people fall into that, especially because I didn't come from an entrepreneurial family, right? It was like everybody
yeah.
was, kind of, and the only person who did was kind of that like crazy uncle who got into like every get rich quick scheme. Right. So everybody was like, that was what their version of business was, like the MLMs
You're
and
like,
what he was going to sell you.
yeah, yeah. Don't rock up
So,
on my doorstep selling Tupperware, uncle. Sorry, no,
yeah.
not for me.
Yeah. But I think,
But isn't it?
there is a
I was going to
business
say,
out
isn't
there
it
for everybody.
exactly? But isn't it interesting? And this is what I say, and it can come from two different places. You can have Christmas with your family, and they'll always ask that obligatory question of, so how's the business? Most of the time, they don't care because they don't understand.
Yeah.
And no one, until they've been in that business owner, position, will really ever ask you in a way that they truly want to know how you're going and deeply understand. Because the first reaction from most of your family friends are, if it's hard, just get a job. You know, like if it's not feeling great today, just get a job. But what they don't understand is that we all have times where things are great and all have times where things aren't so great. But as you said, if my only other option is to get a job, I'm not doing it. I'm going to buckle down and deal with the hard, right? Because as I said, we all
Yeah.
choose our hard. But they might say it because they love you. They might say it because they don't really understand. But from some other level, like family and friends, when you're having a hard time, you can't go to them and have these conversations because they don't have the in-depth understanding. So sometimes you have to reach out to people like yourself and people like me and have these conversations because we get it, because we're living it, right? We say get into business groups, into circles where you can have these meetups and discussions. It's not just about networking, it's about supporting each other and having a group of friends who get it, who get you, who get what you're trying to achieve. And I think that is so powerful in itself. They say you are who you surround yourself with. That's the same in business. Have people who are your business friends who get it. They could be in a competing position to you, but they'll know and understand.
Yeah.
It's just an amazing circle to have around you, and I think that is so immensely powerful. I don't know if you've had that in your journey, like along the way.
I have all the way throughout. And I think to me, I think the biggest eye opener of it was when I went into retail, because in that sector of like asking how was it today? Like on like literally on the street, I was on like the main drag and they're, oh, it was great. It was great. And I was like, really? Because it was shit for me today. And they were like, oh my God,
Yeah.
me too. And I was like, what? Wait, what? And so, but I realized they always had to put that foot forward, right? Oh, everything's fantastic. Everything's really great. And so it really opened my eye to go, man, we need to start asking for help more. Because if I would have known
Yeah.
that you
Yeah.
needed help, or I would have sent more people. Like I would have said, hey, did you check out the store next door? Did you check out the store down the street? They've got some really cool stuff. But if you're always telling me that you're fine and everything's like Jim Dandy, right? Then I'm like, well, they don't need any help. And so I think it was like being okay with that vulnerability of going, just because I need help doesn't mean I'm failing. And
Yeah.
that was I
Definitely.
think that was a hard lesson for me to overcome, of going, help doesn't equal failure. It just means help. That's it. Like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. But you don't know what you don't know. And
yeah.
if somebody in business, like, especially if you're all on the same street and you're having those conversations, and something's working and you're happy to share because you're not coming from a place of malicious intent,
Mhm.
and you're like, I'm successful. I have a kitchen business and they have a clothing business. I'm not competing with them, but we're dealing with the same sort of clientele. We're in the same town, on the same street, and the same things are affecting us. If something's working for me, I'm going to talk to them about it. If something's working for them, I would hope that they would reciprocate and talk
Yeah.
to me about it. And I think if we all started supporting each other a little bit more, because we all need small business somewhere in our lives, like, it's just going to help everybody across the board. But people get stuck in this, as you said, I just have to say everything's okay. And I have to suffer in silence at home by myself and cry because I don't know and understand what to do
Mhm.
next. You need to reach out for help, because if you don't, the outcome could be the end of your business. The outcome could be, taking a really long time to get to the next milestone because you haven't asked the question. You don't know everything. You never probably will. But without asking those questions and seeking that feedback, you're never going to know and understand what you need to do next.
Yeah. And I think just that simple act also gives others permissions to do it. And sometimes you just have to be the person to go, yeah, like that's like, I don't know why it's not working, and then they go, oh, oh, yeah, no, me
You're
neither.
like,
Like,
you had
let's
that
figure this
too?
out together. Like, wow, this is, it's an incredible permission to ask for help, because I think it allows other people to sort of drop that guard and drop that, feeling that, you know, that that you are a person who understands, and you're, like you said, you're not there from malicious intent. You're like, no, I want us both to, let's rise
Yeah.
together, because if you're
But
successful, more people are walking past me if I know you.
but how many amazing joint ventures have happened from those kind of questions being asked, right?
Yeah. Yeah, for me, I would say the majority of my big collaborations came from somebody going like, I'm really stuck in something. And that's like I'm like, oh, like as soon as I hear that, I'm like, oh, let's get you help. Like
Yeah,
let's find, whether it's me, whether it's somebody else, I don't care. Like I'm the first person to be like, oh, I can't help you, but I'm gonna find somebody who does, right? Like that.
absolutely.
I love that, because again, that's something that like we were saying before, that's something I feed off of, that like I'm like, I just want to help you because I know karma comes back. And it's
Absolutely.
exciting to watch another business owner have that breath, that, where their shoulders drop and they're just like, thank God. Like somebody
Absolutely.
threw a lifesaver.
I have people who will reach out to me, and we might just have a Zoom where we sit on either end, and I have a glass of wine and they have a glass of wine, and we just talk it out, and we just like, it gives them an opportunity to just vent everything that they're feeling and going, right, now that you've said that, how do you feel? Well, I feel this and I feel this. Okay. So on the basis of everything that you said, let's talk about the opportunities in this, and let's talk about what ways we can look to change the outcome of this. And like just sitting there and having a conversation.
Yeah,
So
it's so
we
helpful.
we well, we over here, I don't know if you guys have a different name for it, but what we do is we call it mastermind.
Yep.
Now, what we usually do is we get a group of business owners together. We sit around a table. We usually catch up once a quarter. We basically bring to the table our three biggest issues. And for 45 minutes, an hour, it's our turn. We just vent it all out. We say everything that we need. And then we get all these amazing objective views across the table who are our friends, who have been business owners for a long time, super experienced, completely unrelated industries, absolutely different fields, but will come with the most amazing insight, the most amazing ideas, and potential avenues. And it really is just the most uplifting and positive thing that we could do, is surrounding ourselves with those people and really seeking that feedback and guidance. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? It's just the most amazing and powerful thing. And I just love that. I love that we can have these supportive communities where we can sit and have these conversations, have these amazing podcasts. If you and I help one person, ask that question, what an amazing outcome.
Yeah. And I think it's so true, because you just never know. Like I always say, surround yourself with so many different people. Like it doesn't all have to be in your same industry, because sometimes the help comes when you don't even know. And speaking of electricians, I remember being in the last mastermind. It was I think it was last year, a year and a half ago. Anyways, I was saying there was something that was going on. A program wasn't working. It wasn't flying. I wasn't getting traction, but I knew the core of it was right. And I'll never forget, an electrician was sitting there and he goes, I had this guy once, and he goes, and I don't know if this will help you, but I had this guy once who kept having an arc happening. He had changed a couple of plugs in his house, and every time the breaker would blow and he'd flip it, it would spark out the side, and he was getting really scared. He changed the breaker. And so anyways, he asked if he could hire me to come. And I remember telling him to look on his plug, because there's like a little tab. And if you don't break off that little tab, the connection goes, and then that's how you get that spark. So just rip off that little tab, see if it fixes it. And he goes, I don't know why I said that story. It didn't help at all. And I was like, you helped me immensely, because I realized there was one
Absolutely.
tiny little thing that I was doing that if I just ripped off that stupid tab, it would start to flow. And I thought, this is insane. And I still like, now we've done a couple of collaborations together. We're still in the mastermind together, but we always laugh at that story, because he was like, I've no idea why I was telling you that story. It wasn't that. Sometimes I feel it's not that somebody exactly has the answer, but it's that they tell you a story that all of a sudden flicks the answer in your head and you figure it out yourself. And sometimes that's just you, like you said, sitting and having a glass of wine with somebody and moaning about your problem for that day. And then all of a sudden you're like, I know the answer to this. I
Yeah.
knew the answer
Yeah.
all along. I just needed to complain about it a little bit.
Yeah, and that's therapeutic. Like
Yeah.
it's like business owners have its own therapeutic level of conversation, because we need to get that out. We need to vent that out to other people who understand, because if we don't, that
Yeah.
builds up and comes out somewhere else. And you don't want to come home to your family and yell out a frustration out of something that's completely unrelated, because you're frustrated about something that's happened earlier that day, when you can talk that through with somebody who knows and understands and can give you that insight. So I think that's really important, to be able to reach out for help, as you said. But that one takeaway, those 1%ers that we can change
Yeah.
consistently, they make the difference, all the difference in the world.
Yeah. And it's never the monumental stuff. And I always say that to people. It's always the weirdest things that have ever skyrocketed me to any success that I've had. It's never been the thing that I've sat, for years and researched and created. It's something that I was like, let's throw this out there. Like
Yeah,
it's usually those, those things, which of course have years of experience and all that other stuff behind it. But I always go, sometimes we think too hard and we need that other person to go, well, you're overthinking this.
absolutely.
It doesn't have to be that difficult.
Absolutely. Yeah. And 100% agree. And it comes back to a basic framework across all different businesses. And that's why I was saying it's so easy to be able to, once you are confident in the act of business, as I say, you can put that into any industry,
Yeah.
because the problems are the same, right? It's either like culture, um, like financial, compliance, operational, like it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That is across the board with everything. So somebody who's an accountant and somebody who's an electrician could have the same crappy culture in their business, having the same problems. And you can sit there and have that conversation, and he again could make one comment to you and you're like, wow, that's powerful. I'm
Yeah.
going to take that. I'm stealing that. That is mine now. you
Yeah.
know,
Thank
and
you for that.
without that collaboration and opportunity, amazing new ideas don't happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. So if someone who's out there is listening right now, I know that you have a sort of an overview that you do for people of their business. Talk to us a little bit about what that is, and then how can people work with you if they're like, I don't want to do this by myself. I can't do this by myself. Because I promise you, if you are out there and feeling stuck, you are not the person to figure out which foot is in a trap.
Yes, yes. So there's a couple of things that I offer, or that our team offer. We call it like a business audit. It's not really a traditional audit. We go through and we do a complete overview of the business, and we identify areas that we feel need improvement or change to get the outcome that people are really seeking. So we do that, and essentially it's like a tick and flick. It's an identification process, and we go through and we say, based on what we've seen, this is what we actually feel would escalate you to the next stage. We also work with the business owner. We talk to them at length about what they actually want to achieve personally. And we try to put those two things together so that the business will get the outcomes that it needs to get the personal person where they need to go. We can do that, and that's quite a significant process. Usually takes about 60 hours worth of work. Or you can sit with me every single month, and we can do that kind of on a longer term basis, but more cost effective, where we meet every month for 2 hours and we review what we've done, and we look at the overall long term plan, and we reset those goals every single month. So every single month we kind of review what we've done, and then we plan forward, and it kind of keeps you accountable, I guess. Making sure that you're taking those actions. But what the really powerful thing is if we do those two things together. So if we do the complete overall audit of the business and we set everything in place of what's got to be done, and we map that over a period of months or years, and then it's my job to sit every single month and make sure that those things are happening, and also connect people with specialists to make sure that, you know, when they need a solicitor, they have one. They need an accountant, they have one. You know, they need financial support in respects to a bank manager or a finance person, then they have one. So I become the conduit. I come in the back end and I help clean things up, and essentially hold people's hand to get them where they need to go. So we can give people as much service or as little service as they feel that they need. Or, you know, they might be in a financial position where they need to start out small, or they want to feel us out a little bit before they kind of jump in the deep end. And we respect that. And everything's customizable and nothing is locked in. So from there, we can give them those options. And I think that what we start with is I do a 20-minute free conversation. It can be on Zoom. If you're not in Australia, you know, I get up at all hours because I, you know, have kids and don't sleep. And we can do that. We can just have a conversation about where you're at. And even if nothing transpires from that conversation, if I can at least help you with one thing and it's cost you nothing, you know, what's to lose?
Yeah. It could just be the idea that one little idea that like spirals you. Where's the best place for people to go to find out about you and your team and all of your offers?
So they could go to my website is www.clearplanconsulting.com.au. I do have YouTube. I am on Instagram and Facebook, and on Australian LinkedIn. So you can reach out to me on all the social platforms. But if you want to directly link in with me with my calendar and book in that 20-minute conversation, just direct to the website is absolutely the best way to do that.
Perfect. Well, I know there was a lot for this. I know that there is a lot of people that are listening that have a light bulb that goes off. So I'm hoping they keep making it go brighter. Thank you so much for sitting and chatting with us and just being honest about both the ups and downs so that people understand it's not all fancy houses and fast cars. Like there's,
Absolutely.
you know, there's broken down on the side of the highway too. And it's just whether or not you're willing to keep fixing it. So I really appreciate your time, Sonya. And I look forward to having you on the show again so that we can, you know, kind of see where you're at and everything that you've got going on.
Thank you, Tanya. Really appreciate the time and really love the chat today. Amazing insights from both sides of the world. So it's great to catch up.
It was so amazing having Sonya on the show. And I wanted to because she's one of those people who is not scared to talk about all sides of business. And as an entrepreneur, I hope that what you took from the show was not only the advice on, you know, making sure that you are looking at your business for what it does of its own, but also what you're doing for yourself personally and making sure that you're keeping those two growths, whatever that is, finance, fame, fortune, whatever it is that you want it to be, rising up together. Because too often as entrepreneurs, especially when we're kind of owner operator, we get stuck in harnessing everything we have and just backpacking it onto that business. And so I really liked the parts that she was talking about, making sure that you're, you know, diversifying, that you're looking at what you want the success for your business to be, but also what do you want your personal success to be? Where do you want that to be? And how can your business help you get to that level? Because at the end of the day, we all don't want to work forever. So I know this will be an episode that you probably go back to and listen to a couple of times. Now, if you are interested in her 20-minute overview, which is a complimentary call, we're going to have the link in the show notes. So make sure that you head there. We'll also have the link to the blog post. That's going to have everywhere that you can find her, all of her social media, and a few other things that I'm going to sneak in there that I have been discovering of her that I think you guys are going to want to know. But I'm not going to give it away. I'm going to make you go to my blog to check that out. Yeah, that's strategically placed, but I know you're curious what it is. So, the other thing that I want to say, which is completely unrelated to this episode, is I want you to check out more about Australia, not just what you see on like TikToks of the big spiders and bugs and all that other stuff. But when we were off air, we were talking about, she had said, if you ever come to Australia, check us out. Australia has always been one of those places that has been on my bucket list. As many of you know, I live in the West Coast, in Canada. And so it's always been a place that I've wanted to go and visit because I love Australian humor. I love their comedy shows, their movies. Like, it is just something that I glean so much joy off of. So whenever I get a guest that is from a different country, I always like to dig a little bit more into it because it gives me some insight. And also, I understand more and more that these guests that I've been having from around the world, that all of the issues that we have in business, it doesn't just happen in your country. It literally happens everywhere. And sometimes somebody who is completely removed from your atmosphere and your, country culture can sometimes help you to look at things a little bit differently, just like Sonya did, I'm sure, for many of you in this episode, because there's something that we can glean because we're all going through the same things, just with different environments. So no matter what it is that you're doing today, whether you're researching a new country, whether you're checking out Sonya to get help to help you quickly get to the level that you want to, or whether you are just sitting around having a laugh, that's exactly what I want you to do. Because I want you to make sure that every single day you take time to have fun. Because as I always say, if you're not having fun, why are you doing it?